And it's 2024. Welcome all to another year of Tales from the Forlorn Dopes. I'm your host, Mr. Cybersmily.
I'm your co-host, Wisdom Triple Zero. Greetings, programs, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man.
It's bitterly cold all across the United States, but here we are, thawing and ready to go.
Yeah, I can't believe they played football in some of that weather.
Oh Lord, watch them trying to clear the stadium in Michigan or wherever, and it's like they clear one section, and by the time they cleared another, the first section was all full of snow again.
Well, I saw a video of a guy went into to get a bottle of water from a refrigerator. And apparently the refrigerator was warmer than the outside because as soon as he pulled it out of the little dispenser or whatever, the bottle just started freezing in his hand.
I believe that so very much.
Yeah, it was
It,
crazy.
it like for the past week, it's been in the negatives here in Arkansas, and that's not cool, man. That's
No.
not. I vastly prefer winter to summer, but man, when you walk outside and your lips hurt, you know it's cold.
Yes. So, this year, well, we are going to quickly go over some kind of things that are supposed to be happening this year from the cyberpunk genre. So, those who still play 2077, they have been confirmed that a new patch will be coming out to fix some of the issues they broke with 2.1. They didn't really say if this was going to be the final patch. There's definitely not going to be any new content or features, as it were, being presented. Because I think the
So
team,
all your hopes for flashlights are gone.
well, unless you're on PC.
Bastard.
If you're on PC, you can get a flashlight or you can get night vision. Your choice. Or you can get both.
Yeah, you're cool like that. I get it.
Yeah. However, they have established the Boston offices and are starting to recruit. From what I've heard, the dev team is busy grinding away, doing the preliminary stuff of the game. So there's probably a good chance we will see, compared to the last announcement, which was back in 2013, and have to waiting 7 years. I don't think the wait is going to be 7 years for the sequel. I think it's going to be a lot sooner than a lot of people think. So my guess,
Yeah,
2070 or 27 or 28 is probably when we're going to start seeing some more buzz around it.
I mean, here's the thing that nobody ever thinks about. Like they were desperately trying, like they announced the game in 2013, which was the setting of the original. And then they wanted to put out the game in 2020, which was, of course, the edition that everybody knew and loved. Um, and I think they were under a lot of pressure to do that just from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
Plus, investors are investors and they're just like that. Um, but with the sequel, with Project Orion or whatever they end up going with, like there is no date of importance coming up that they need to meet or anything like that. So hopefully it'll be a lot. It'll hopefully this time it'll actually will be released when it's ready.
Right. And I mean, the Phantom Liberty did drop in 20. God, has it only been
2023.
23? Yeah. It's only been a few months. Well, not even. Well, maybe it's about half a year. Not
I mean,
even.
it feels like longer because I've played it so much. But
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's it's a lot shorter than I thought. Would have been nice if they had dropped it in August when the bomb went off, but c'est la vie. Hopefully, they're not going to do the next major date, which is 2045.
um,
Hopefully, we'll get a product before then.
I mean, didn't Deep Space take place in 2027?
It did.
Am I wrong about that? Yeah, so we can
Well,
get
it
that.
lasted up to 2027.
Yeah, and we can ignore 2030X
X.
because why wouldn't you? But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean,
But it's interesting
we
that they
can hope.
called it Project Orion. The question and a lot of theories have been out there because those who actually have been diving into the lore and specifically the tabletop lore often make the connection of the Orion company that's within
Yeah,
Chrome 1 and whether or not that's going to hold up.
it would be a weird thing because other than Chrome One, I don't think that appears anywhere else.
True. But it would be interesting to see if they're going to do like teams, right? Multiplayer.
That would be nice. I mean, I don't want PvP in the game. Like,
Yep.
that's never been anything I'm interested in. But I do want to run around Night City with my friends. And it's always been one of the major failings of the game for me that, this game that's based off a tabletop role playing game, that thing that requires you to play with your friends, doesn't let you play with your friends.
Well,
I've always been nitpicky about that.
yeah, and I think one of the drawbacks, and we saw it with the release, is I don't think CDPR had the talent and the expertise to pull that off. Right?
I get that. I do. But what really bugs me are all the people online who are like, I don't want it to be multiplayer. I just want to play by myself because I'm a misanthrope and bah humbug. Meh. Like, dude, it's based off a tabletop role playing game. Like, its entire premise is that you're supposed to be able to play with your friends. Like, there will always be the story mode there. And if they do it right, if they do it like, I'd like to see them like they did it with Saints Row, where your friend can just join you and run around the city with you, like in a co-op experience where uh, it's not required to break anything in the game. They just suddenly there's another person there
Right.
helping you do shit, going on missions with you.
Well, it's
I don't
probably
know
also
if
going to be a balance to do, because the other thing is, if they're going to go to multiplayer, are they going to create a MMO, right? Versus a small scale.
I mean, I'd prefer a small scale, like let 1 to 3 people join you for a 4-man party. Like that would be optimal. And like I said, just let you run around. Like it doesn't need to be an MMO. It doesn't need to be GTA. It doesn't need to be Fallout 76. Like Saints Row 2, Saints Row 3, like they had the perfect co-op. I mean, granted, the Saints Row franchise went downhill after 2. Like 2 was as good as it got with that series, but like they did online cooperative play very, very well.
Yeah, and that might be why they wanted to go to Unreal Engine, right? Because it's better to have someone else build out that functionality in the engine rather than you do
Yeah.
it yourself. And I think with the release of Cyberpunk 2077, they really came upon all the limitations of their engine and how
Well, I
limited it
mean, they were
was.
trying to build their engine from scratch, and they were trying to do things that engine just was not ready or capable of.
Yep.
Not to say it's a bad engine. Like, obviously, the engine works. Like, it's a great game. But with Unreal, you'll be able to do, third person perspective without it looking stupid. Um, I think the biggest problem with switching to Unreal is trying to rebuild that city in that engine. I don't know how that works from a programming aspect, but it does seem like the Night City that we know from the video game probably won't make a perfect transition.
Well, more than likely, it's going to be a couple of years in the future, right?
Sure, but I mean, on a city that scale, barring another catastrophe, I don't see that necessarily working. Now, what would be neat is if they tried to set it earlier, but I don't think they have the rights to do that.
Yeah,
Like before the
Gang Thor was like you can't really translate tabletop into an MMO because the problem with tabletop is the actions you take affect the world, and MMOs can't do that, right?
I mean, I get that, but if I'm playing a role playing game, I want to play it with my friends.
Right.
I get with playing Gank, but that's a mechanical question as opposed to like a overall game question.
I mean, that's kind of a novel approach to how MMOs work, right? So normally the MMO experience is the world is there and players interact with the world and things respawn and you have to
Sure.
wait in line for a quest. I know World of Warcraft tried to move the world around and with their phases. So if a person wasn't on a certain wasn't within or completed certain quests, they were out of phase, which means they couldn't see what players who did fulfill those quests see. And it was an interesting concept, but also the other thing is, you know, like you say, small groups, right? So you have a small group of friends who want to play, who want to experience the game, and have like a group save, in which the group progression is based on the group's play, as opposed to the open world and the thousands of players interacting with that world. And how would that relate? Be, I mean, it's a novel concept, but I mean,
I mean,
the
it can
price
like
tag is
if you go with
probably big.
I hate to keep saying Saints Row, but if you go with the Saints Row model, your characters did make changes to the world because you were just playing through the single player story with a friend.
All right.
So
But what
like
if
new buildings appeared,
your
buildings took
friend
damage.
is not around and you continue playing, and then that friend
Well,
comes in?
then they miss out on that.
Oh,
They come in at whatever state the world your game, the game you are running, you are the host. They join you. You can continue playing with or without them, and the changes will still save and whatnot.
right.
You take over territories and all that stuff. If they want to experience it for themselves, they can host their own game and have you join them.
Right.
Um,
That sounds feasible.
that way, it's not an MMO. It's not anything like that. It's just the story mode with a friend.
Right. So, speaking of all Phantom Liberty and all that, what do you think is now the official ending to 2077? Because, and those who haven't played it yet, here's spoilers about to come.
I don't think it's any of the actual endings for Phantom Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the actual ending for Phantom Liberty, depending on who you side with, either leaves you as a useless husk or doesn't really do anything for you at all. Like, it's not really an ending. You just continue playing the game. I still want it to be the Nomad ending. That's my personal take. That's of all the ones that are given to you, that's the most optimal. Unless we can get the ending where you go to Night or Crystal Palace, and you now control the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers.
Well, I think it
Like,
is that ending, and I think it's and I forget which. It's not Tower. Is it Star?
yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't
I don't have
remember.
it.
I don't remember all the names, but basically the ending in which you take Rogue along, because I think that ending finishes it all. Right? It kills off all these old characters to start a new universe. Right? Johnny's gone. Rogue's gone. Alt has already been gone, but Arasaka's gone. So now the world is new. Smasher is
I
gone.
mean, Arasaka's not really gone though. Like, the company still exists.
The company still
Hanako dies. Smasher dies.
Saburo dies.
Kinda. I would assume there's backups somewhere. Just
You don't think Alt's not that good?
I mean, I think if Alt were that good, other things would have happened beforehand.
Right. Yeah. So, also, speaking of Cyberpunk 2077, there is going to be a red stream on January 24th at 6 p.m. CET, which I think translates to noon Eastern Standard Time, which would be 7 a.m. Pacific Time. So on that stream, they're going to have a songbird, and cannot. I will not be able to push, but I will purchase his name. I think Boris Pugatsmura. I can't pronounce his last name. Who is the English adaptation director? Will be on that stream. So check that out. Which means if they're doing a red stream, that means the patch is probably going to be coming out soon. Either it's going to come out on that Wednesday or the following Tuesday, is my guess. So those who have mods, prepare to have them broken.
Yeah, I can imagine that happening.
Because, yes, mods are cool, but anytime there's a release from the company, you are not playing the game unless you start a new, refreshed game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of patches, because that's how they work. Not that I would know anything about that, because I'm a console player, but yeah, anytime they're going to patch something, all that extra stuff, it gets glitched out.
Yeah, and I started getting to doing the mods back in November. I actually finally decided, okay, let's play this game with the mods, and there's some pretty crazy mods out there.
There are indeed. I have only glimpsed them through others' machines, and I am continually jealous. But yeah.
I mean, for me,
I kept hoping that they'd release like a mod kit for Cyberpunk for console players, like they did, like Bethesda did with like Fallout 4.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about it, but I think it required them to really make drastic changes to the engine, which I don't think they're gonna do. Not now.
Yeah. Or maybe they're waiting till like the final patch, which, due to the nature of patches, there really usually is no such thing.
Yep. Moving along. So this year, there's a few things that are supposed to be coming out, or at least being in develop this year. One, and if you go to IMDb, they talk about it. So one thing that's in development is Blade Runner 2099. It's going to be a series on Amazon. It's still to be announced. So don't know if it's going to be an anime. Don't know if it's going to be live action. But it is on the schedule, or at least in development currently. The other one, when I think this is more cyberpunk adjacent, Fallout.
Yeah, I would definitely consider it adjacent.
Even though they
It
said it was supposed to come out in 2023, I don't believe it did.
No, but we're getting constant updated like production images and stuff like that. So I think it's still coming out, and it looks pretty good. Like it's definitely it definitely falls in the adjacent category because I mean even for post-apocalypse, like there's monsters and all sorts of weird mutations and shit like that that keeps it from even being like pure post-apocalypse. Plus, it's a weird setting where like it's a alternate future with a point of divergence being like 1940s, 1950s Art Deco stuff. So it'll be interesting to see it on screen as a live action project.
Yep.
The Last of Us 2 is also well on its way for the series. They've been casting it with some pretty exciting choices.
So Neuromancer supposedly is still in development, production. Don't know. I haven't seen any real updates.
Man, I gave up on Neuromancer ever being adapted to anything a long time ago. Like, I'm not sure why in this day and age they can't get an adaptation off the ground. Certainly, technology has improved to a point where, really, at this point, anything can be done. It's a damn shame because it is the cornerstone of what people consider to be cyberpunk literature. I mean, if we can't get that, I'd at least like a Burning Chrome like anthology series. That would be fucking awesome. But yeah, I've given up on them ever making Neuromancer. Sad to
Yeah,
say.
it's still in development, so I have a feeling, even though, I mean, it's probably still being negotiated with Apple. So, who knows? I haven't seen any news of recent other than it was talked about. There is, speaking of Apple TV, there is a series coming out which is in development, and I guess it's in pre-production. It is called Metropolis, which is based on the original Cyberpunk movie from the
Yeah, Fritz
1927.
Lang. Yeah,
27, yeah.
I'm
So,
very excited about that one because that is like you said, is the original cyberpunk piece of art. Like Blade Runner was basically a remake of it at on certain levels, certainly visually. Um, for a cyberpunk setting, it was as good as it was so far ahead of its time. Like we're talking 1927. Science fiction itself was still a new concept back then, and it was really the only thing that did a day after tomorrow type setting.
Yes. Again, they're still talking about Mega City 1, that it's still in the works. God only knows if it really is.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't think they'd be able to. I think Carl Urban is probably too big to do
Well,
another TV show after The Boys, but we can hope.
so
Um,
Carl Urban is ready to return as Dredd in Mega City 1, but will he get the chance? Is the problem.
yeah, but I mean, that's been the headline for that project since, 2015.
Yeah, but the interviews with
Uh,
him, he's said he would love to return to that role.
oh yeah, of course. Why wouldn't he? That movie was one of those perfect fucking cyberpunk films. Like it was everything you wanted from from Judge Dredd.
But
Uh,
I don't know, right? Because since the strike last year, and I think there's a big shift in Hollywood. Well, at least in some genres, that things have been changing, right? And whether or not those changes really fit. Because I mean, look at The Witcher. Henry Cavill was on board for The Witcher for all 7 seasons, and then they really didn't pay attention to the material and the lore, and the writers decided to kind of go off on their own and create their own stories that just are just labeled The Witcher. And Cavill was like, "No, I'm done with this."
yeah. I'm loath to admit that I haven't read all the Witcher books. I loved the Witcher show. I loved what they did with it. I loved the game. Uh, I know there were vast differences between the two, and that the TV series kind of ignored both and moved on in its own direction. And personally, I'm okay with that. Like, there are times when doing a word for word adaptation is awesome and it works out well. Uh, but even then, I like it's pretty rare that you get that, and it does work out well.
Well, in my opinion, what they
There's
did
always going to be some kind of changes.
with the Rings of Power, to me, was just, I'm gonna say it. They basically took a big old dump on Tolkien's world.
I mean, they've been taking a dump on Tolkien since the live action Hobbit movies, so
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned with that. Like the Lord of the Rings movies, I'm going to say it out loud, they're better than the books. The Hobbit movies are utter garbage from start to finish. And I didn't watch the Rings of Power because at that point I no longer cared.
All right.
Um,
About to proceed with some of the other things that are
yeah, go
supposedly
ahead.
coming out. So it looks like there's a lot of computer games that are coming out. So Splinter
I
Cell,
mean, did we talk about the most exciting of the film projects coming out?
Furiosa.
Did we talk about Blade Runner 2099?
Yes, we started off with Blade Runner 2099.
I need better myths or less of them. And yes, Furiosa is coming out, and I'm very, very excited about that.
I mean, that we definitely know is coming out. These others are
Yeah,
just theories, as it were. Yeah, I mentioned it. I don't. I mean, there's not a lot to go on
There's
other
not
than
any news. I'm just very excited about it,
it
and I'm
is.
medicated, so I
Oh,
apologize.
it is filming. So the status is filming, which is better than some of these that are pre-production, in development, etc. So,
Absolute truth. Like, if it's filming, chances are it's coming out. Like, it'd have to be really horrible for it not to come out, or some kind of really shady shenanigans like the Batgirl movie. But
right.
yeah, I can't imagine at this point it not eventually hitting the screens.
Yep. So Splinter Cell, which I would say is kind of cyberpunk. I mean, it is near future
It is.
technology.
It's near future. I mean, it's pure. It's cyberpunk. There's nothing really adjacent to it. There's no. I don't remember aliens or anything like that in it, or superpowers, or any of that nonsense. It's just kind of a more military themed near future thing, which, like, that's every bit as cyberpunk as like Appleseed.
Yeah, so they're filming that now. Supposedly, it's going to be out on Netflix. Don't know when. Don't know the release date. The other thing that was announced was a series for Sin City. Although Sin City is an alternative reality, I think. It's a blend of the 50s and modern age and
Sin City,
yeah.
like based off the comic book.
Yeah, Frank Miller's.
I had not heard of any new projects with that, but
It's going to
I
be
mean, it's noir. I don't know how. I don't know if. I mean, anything noir to me is always going to be cyberpunk adjacent. But yeah,
it's an
yeah, I
animation.
would love New City.
That's the only thing I got is Sin City animation announced based on the works of Frank Miller. The series will focus on the original characters set within the Sin City universe.
I mean, as problematic as Frank Miller can be, especially in his later years, Sin City was solid. The movies were good. The comics were fantastic. Yeah, I'm all about that.
There is another thing announced, and I never played the game, and I don't know too much about the game, but Horizon 2074. It's supposed to be an
Hmm.
adaptation of the Guerrilla Games Horizon Zero Dawn.
I've never played those either.
And I, because it says 2074, I assume it's cyberpunkish, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I know it. If it's what I'm thinking of, I know it's like a space game. Um,
It's role playing.
but I never played it. I didn't. It didn't.
PlayStation 4.
Uh,
Oh, that's the one with the robots and cavemen.
oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't know anything about that shit. That apparently that game like skipped my radar completely.
I've seen it.
Almost
I
ashamed to say that.
remember it, but so where is this? Killzone. So it's a role playing game. First game. The plot follows Aloy, a young hunter in a world overrun by machines, who sets out to uncover her past. The players use ranged weapons, a spear, and stealth to combat mechanical creatures and other enemies. The skill tree is done. So I think it was kind of the world collapsed, machines kind of ruled the world, and it turned into it basically the world de-evolved.
Hmm. So like a modern Thundar the Barbarian.
That's what it kind of reminds me of. So maybe it's not cyberpunk.
Doesn't sound very cyberpunk, but maybe the machines are cool. Who knows?
Yeah. we can only hope. Another thing that was announced for Netflix is something called Recursion, which is going to be a series. A brilliant scientist invents a powerful technology that allows people not just to reactivate their most visceral memories, but to reinvent them entirely. So it seems like it's kind of a brain dance type of thing. It's based off of the
Yeah, that's what I was
novel.
thinking.
It's based off the novel by Blake Crouch or Crouch. So that's coming out with Netflix. Gattaca is in pre-production for Showtime, and it's going to be a series. So if you ever watched the Ethan Hawke movie with Uma Thurman and Jude Law,
I really liked that movie.
I didn't at first, but then I liked it when I watched it again. I appreciated more as a cyberpunk universe, right? Because you had the haves and the
Yeah.
have-nots.
It's nice to see every now and then some completely non-violent science fiction. I mean, you know me, I love my ultraviolets, but it's nice to see like it not having to rely on that. And there was enough interesting stuff going on with Gattaca, especially from a world building standpoint, that I've just really always really enjoyed it.
The last thing I saw that's coming out, and apparently it's going to be on the CW, and it's announced, is The Disasters. Set in a
I've
near
not heard of
future. Yeah, so it's set in a near future where humans have colonized space to save Earth from climate crisis. A group of washouts from a prestigious military academy who are framed for treason and forced to go on the run to the colonies to clear their names. So it's a bit. I think it's one of the areas in which there's going to be a cyberpunk, not necessarily space opera, but hard sci-fi space type of crossover.
Speaking of which, ISS, that looks good. I read the comic it's based off of, and it's fantastic. Um, about the astronauts, they're on the International Space Station,
Oh yeah,
and then war breaks out on Earth, and like they know that orders, like somebody's trying to sabotage the whole thing up there because they want to. I don't know. It's I don't want to get into it, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing the film.
yeah. 2024 seems to have a lot of wars about to happen, or or people who are friends or allies, whatever, starting to turn against each other. Because there's also that movie Civil War that's coming out,
Yeah.
which
I mean, it's the sign of the times. It's
yeah, people can relate
everybody's kind of trepidatious about what's happening, so they're looking for that in their entertainment.
to understand the what ifs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all the stuff that I am aware of when it comes to media and cyberpunk. That'll be coming out maybe this year, maybe not. Oh, the other thing was a thing called Mickey 17, which seems like it's a near future type of movie in which there's clones involved. The trailer really doesn't have much on it, but from my understanding, it's kind of near. Well, it's sci-fi fantasy, so it was a novel called Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton, and what it
I've
is
not heard of either
is
of them, either the movie or the novel.
yeah, so it's basically clones that are sent out into space missions. So if the clone dies, you just make another. But we'll see. Supposedly
Oh,
it's
so it
coming out in
sounds like
March 20th.
paranoia.
Yeah, kind of. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so that kind of wraps up with TV series and possible movies that are coming out that have a cyberpunk theme. I will try to follow up throughout the year on those, um, and see where we're at with what's going on. So, you have any other media or genre things?
No, but with as cold as it's been here, I've been kind of just isolating myself from everything. Like it's between the holidays and the bitter cold, I have not ventured out past my comfort zone. So
Yeah.
my apologies, everyone. As it warms up, I will come out of my cave.
I haven't seen any new announcements for any new cyber XOXO number 3 is out. Dark Horse.
Yeah.
I gotta get that. Oh, there's gonna be a 4 too. Oh,
Well, yeah, it's a 4-issue miniseries.
I thought he did. Maybe they do only 4. I thought it was only 3, but yeah, you're right. 4. I don't see any new ones or new titles coming out, so I hope they're not slowing down. And they just are waiting until the next release of the game. Definitely would love to see that. I would love to see more novels in the coming
Yeah.
year, just to keep the brand fresh. I mean, as I mentioned before, CDPR really wants to kind of, I don't say exploit the IP, but definitely use the IP to its fullest.
I mean, keep it fresh, keep it alive. I'm instantly sold on whatever they're putting out, barring like some really bizarre choices. Uh, so as long as they keep putting out comics, I'll keep buying them. Anime, live action, whatever, like novels. I'm here for the franchise. Aha!
The IP. It will be shrills. So, ugh. Not shrills. Shills.
Shill.
I mean, that's what pretty much both our sites are.
Yeah, and this podcast, like we're just here for to provide free advertisement.
Yep. So the one thing we missed since last year was Altosaurian put out another 12 days of Gearmas, in which they produced a bunch of the old gear into red. We got a
It's the
few
truth.
things. We have the Cybercam for all you medias, to help you with your live action and cameras work. The Cyber Scanner. I like that they integrated the Cyber Scanner as a eye option, as an optics option, or no, sorry, it's a cyberarm option. Oops.
And I think optics would be a little
I would love to
too
have an optics.
Yeah.
Digital readout of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that it feeds to your optics. Like that would only make sense. But they don't give you a whole lot of description for it.
Yeah, so it looks like they took quite a bit from well, the stuff for rockers and also stuff from Protect and Serve with this one, because you
Yeah.
also have the DPI smart sticks, so you can drum in the air. What was it?
So you can be sure to truly annoy all your friends.
Yeah, wasn't there a toy like that back in the 90s?
There was a toy like that. that. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, it was like wearable drums that just made your friends want to beat you to death.
Yeah. The Narla Extra Dex Smart Gloves, which gets you some additional options.
Dynalar?
Dynalar?
Yeah.
Dynalar.
The Sforma environment suit, like that's straight from Chromebook One.
Yep. Well,
Uh,
all of them are
where's
from
that? Where's that from?
2020.
Is that from Chromebook One or is that from Protect and
No,
Serve?
that is from, I want to say Chromebook 3 or 4.
Hmm. Hmm. I feel ashamed. But that Dynalar Extra Dex Smart Glove, that's just that's an updated version of old tech, but I guess technically that counts as something new. Just
Yeah,
like the Greenlight Go sniffer from Hammered Industries, that's new stuff.
yeah. The glove image that they show in the blueprints at the end, I have never seen that image before for that glove. So I believe, I mean,
No, I'll tell you what that's from though. That's the arm from one of the full conversions.
is it?
Yeah, I want to say the firefighter full conversion. I could be wrong though, but yeah.
Now you got me interested. Yeah, the green light go sniffer. So, is this from Wildside? I think this is from
The
Wildside.
Greenlight Ghost Sniffer? I've never heard of it before.
Well, wasn't there a like the
There was a
only?
sniffer, but it wasn't called the Greenlight Go.
Well, they might have added
They
the
might have.
texture
Like
to it
that would
because it was probably just called the sniffer, and some company was like, "No, we need to brand this."
but they didn't do that for Ion Cuffs, which are from Protect and Serve.
True, but yeah, they should have. Or in the Master Mechanics tools, which again was from one of the Chromebooks. The Mini Mag speakers, which was from Chromebook 4, I think,
I think you're right on that.
which can basically turn anything into a speaker, including your cat. Well, maybe not your cat, but we can always try.
My
the
cat makes noise on its own.
the Optitech Mag viewer, which was always a staple within one of my characters if I needed binoculars and didn't have the cyber eyes. Skid Row Pack Shield. I don't remember that.
No, that's new.
Yeah. Pack Shield is a bulletproof shield with the appearance of business wear. It will not provide protection while worn as a backpack. Oh, no. Yeah, that was a backpack from Chrome 4.
Was it? I don't
Yeah.
remember that at all.
Well, the image is from a backpack from Chrome 4.
Yeah.
And then the Zoda Metro car, which is actually from the base book of 2020. The little three-wheeler, which...
Yeah, always love that little guy.
Did it have stat? I don't remember if it had stats in the main book.
Very basic ones. Like just top speed.
And the drumsticks
And I
were
think
called the
movement.
hit sticks, according to Gang Thor, from 1987. Wow. God. 1987. I was a
Well,
sophomore
thank
in
you.
high school.
Yeah, yeah. I was a freshman.
God damn, I'm old.
No, no, I was a sophomore as well. Shit. Damn it. That's so long ago.
Yes.
And yes, I very much hated my friend who had those.
And by the way, I want to address something publicly. Gen Xers
Hmm.
are different than boomers, for all you out there.
Yes.
Boomers are crotchety and old. Gen Xers don't give a shit. There's a difference. Not much, but there is a difference.
We won't tell you to get off our lawns, but we won't share our beer with you either.
Exactly. Yeah, so other things that I think we missed from our Talsorian, and I don't remember if we talked about the PAX and Edgerunner. So Edgerunner's kind of made a bit of a debut at PAX with some flyers.
We talked about it briefly, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of all I've heard of recent. Although I try to pull things out of Rob Barefoot, aka Dice ttrpg. He is now part of the Brotherhood of Talsorian, and they have taken an oath of silence and will not share anything
Yeah.
until it's fully
And they
ready.
wouldn't send us hard copies of the of those flyers either. We both reached out to him separately about it.
Yeah.
Hey man, can you hook a brother up? But apparently he's not. They're not sharing their beer with us either. So
Yep.
and maybe they can get off the lawn.
I didn't care about the flyers. I'd rather have the dice.
I mean, dice are cool. Dice are very cool. Flyers are cool. I've got both of the original red dice though, so and they're unreadable, so I don't use them for much. They just stay in the package.
So, yeah, other than that, just to give you guys a bit of an overview for what's coming up in the year, we are working on getting more interviews. We're having some returned guests coming onto the show.
Very excited.
Very excited. Some of them haven't been on the show in quite a while. Some of them, I believe, have been on the show a couple of times, but it's always nice to have them come back. And we're also working on getting some new people. I've reached out to a couple, I wouldn't say streamers, but creators on YouTube who I kind of follow their content, but I haven't heard back from them. Hopefully, and we'll continue to put pressure on them and see if they will be willing to join us. Maybe I'll bribe them with cookies or something. Something fun, but yeah, so that is the other thing to look forward to this year. Wisdom, you got anything else you want to talk about before we get into this show?
I think that about covers it for everything that we missed and everything that we know for a fact is coming, or at least being worked on. I definitely have some feelers out for some really good interviews. Here's hoping that those come through. Yeah, beyond that, it's a bright new year and bright new things are coming.
All right. So tonight we are actually going to continue our series, because we do not have any interviews, on our book reviews, and hopefully we'll finish up all the 2020 books this year. Crossing fingers. We finished up all the Splat books and all the rule books, so now we are heading into scenario books, adventure books, that Altarsorium published.
We're saving the gear books for last, so.
Well, I think we always talk about them. So this.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of love for them.
Yes. So this particular episode, we're going to go over Eurotour, which came out in 1993. So it's kind of an early one. It was
Yeah, if
written.
I recall correctly, it was the first published adventure for Cyberpunk.
Are you sure Forlorn Dopes didn't come out first?
I'm pretty sure this came out first. I could be
Huh.
wrong, but uh,
Something.
I know I got this before Forlorn Dopes. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but
Well, I also know it came out before Land of the Free and um,
oh, definitely.
Firestorm and Edgerunner Incorporated. But I don't know. I want to say that Forlorn Hope came out first. But I could be wrong.
I'll be able to tell you in just one moment. No, I guess Forlorn came out 1 year earlier. Uh, my bad on that. I don't know why I thought. Well, because I got Eurotour first before Forlorn.
Mm.
And the mind it plays tricks with your memories.
Yes, it does. So it was written by, and again, I am not good at names. Mark Gillicati, Gilati,
Uh, Galliotto,
Gilliato,
Jean-Michel
Michael,
Renier,
and Magnus
and
Seter.
yeah, like a bunch of dudes whose names are really hard to
Seter.
pronounce.
Well, looking at their names, they definitely have a very European
Indeed.
aesthetic. So, and again, that's one of the things that I think I liked about Altar Saurian, even though some people have pointed out that, Altar Saurian is an American corporation writing these books, but the actual authors are from the region. So it's nice to have that. So not sure how if that's necessarily accusing them of any cultural appropriation, especially if they're getting authors from those places to write the content about those places.
I mean, I don't really think there's any cultural appropriation going on in the book or really any of the cyberpunk books that I can think of.
Yep.
I will say that I absolutely love the cover by Doug Schuler, and we've got interior art by Chris Hawkabout, friend of the show, Paolo Parente, who went on to great things. Angelo, wow, that is really hard to read.
Montanini?
Angelo Montanil?
Montanini?
Montanino?
Montanini. It's like panini.
Montanini. Yeah, there we go.
Montanini.
Matteo Resonanti and Jean-Michel Renouet. Paolo also acts as the European art director. Layout and graphics by Anthony Del Grosso, David Ackerman, Mike Pondsmith, and Matthew Anacleto, who also is there for the American art direction. Yeah, that covers all the. Oh, and editing, of course, by Derek Quintanar, Edward Bolmy, and Britt Daniels. But yeah, this is actually one of my favorite covers for the Cyberpunk line. I don't know why. It just really speaks to the Cyberpunk aesthetic.
Yeah, and before we actually get into the actual content of it, this is a book that you want to use for starting out players. It is definitely not a high powered, high cyberwared, high armored out adventure group or players, because
Yeah.
it will be a cakewalk for them. If you do have that type of group, you are going to need to do a little bit of homework and beefing up a lot of the NPCs in here.
Yeah, you're gonna have to throw some steroids at your NPCs. It's also a good book if you don't want to set your game in Night City and want to have more of an explore and want to explore Europe, that's obviously what the book is about. Uh, which can be a nice break from always running in Night City or in the same setting, the same location.
Yeah, and as a new referee, I think it's good to kind of look and see how to flesh out an NPC. The other great thing, I'm just going to give you an overview of like just the basic mechanics is a lot of what's in this book, especially in the descriptions, is the writers specifically said or tell you you should be making this type of role, whether it's an authority role or an interview role, or and and they also give you choices of the different types of skills that could apply for that given situation. So
Yeah,
you have a choice to kind of use characters who might not have those specific skills, but use a different skill. It that skill
it's
might
it's
have
a
a that skill might
very
have
good for beginner GMs and players, not only as an adventure itself, but as learning how to play the game.
yeah. And the other thing with that the rent or the different types of skills you can try, it also shows you different difficulty levels, right? So it might be easier if you have jury rig to do this task versus electronics, or basic tech might have you can apply, but it's going to be requiring a 25 compared to a 20. So it shows you how you can manipulate skills to make them, if it's not the exact skill that's required, what an associated skill could still be used but at a higher level. And I think they also included modifiers, because a lot of the skill numbers are not exact. They're not like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30.
Right.
Some of them
They
are.
took those into account.
So a lot of that math work that sometimes happens with Cyberpunk is already included. So you can just have them make the roll and the difficulty numbers right there. So let's get into it. The book has 3, 4, 6, 8 chapters. The first is, of course, the introduction, in which you're introduced to the adventure itself. It gives you kind of an overview of what the adventure is supposed to be, which is basically the group is going to be the crew or hang-ons or whatever you want to call them, to the rocker boy, Jack Entropy, which was another name within the various books of Cyberpunk. I would say I don't know if he's equivalent to Johnny and Carrie.
No, but he's climbing.
Yeah,
He's up there.
he's definitely a name that is thrown throughout several of the source books, so his name should not be unfamiliar to people.
It was actually kind of weird that like he didn't get mentioned anywhere in 2077 that I've found so far.
Yeah, I haven't found it either.
But yeah, he's kind of a big deal in the Cyberpunk books. He appeared in Rocker Boy, most notably before this.
Yep. So the introduction is how basically tells the GM how you're going to get your characters into the game, what kind of cash they'll get, any rep they might get, and just kind of an introduction into them. And then it goes into kind of how you should run this adventure, and gives you kind of some examples on how to do things. Also gives you suggestions on how to expand things. And then this chapter ends with basically the the tour crew, which, which includes Jack Entropy, his manager, the marketing director, head of security, bodyguard, the chief technician, and of course I love the ornament, which is basically Jack's girlfriend, groupie.
I mean, you gotta have groupies.
I guess so.
Although I guess she's more of a hanger-on because she travels with the tour as opposed to just being there for one show or whatnot.
Yeah. So then the next 7 chapters are basically small adventures in different cities throughout Europe. The first one, of course, happens in London. So the tour does a show, and you're going to find out that Jack kind of gets in a lot of trouble for every city he gets into. So in London, not to give too much away, but Jack, after the show, decides he needs to get some a little more R&R. So he goes off and wanders the city, and you are to go and get him back and rein him in. The chapter is laid out into kind of a sequential path in which the players are going to go from one place to another to eventually find him at a underground fighting club. And I want to say,
Originally, just coincidentally, when I originally bought this book, I got it just after I watched the movie, the Dirty Harry movie, The Deadpool. And Jim Carrey plays a rocker in that movie. And it really kind of felt to me like they just took that character and based a whole adventure on him.
a Dirty Harry movie?
Yeah. The
Jim
Deadpool.
Carrey?
It's a very brief role, but yeah, he plays like an out of control rock star.
Huh. I would have never. Wow. I have to look that up.
I mean, it was back then. It was before he got famous. Just like Jeff Goldblum started out in one of the Death Wish movies.
Well, I can picture that, but I don't know why I can't believe Jim Carrey is in.
I don't know. Seeing Jeff Goldblum play a thug really goes against type.
1988. Huh. Yeah, I was never into Dirty Harry. Anyways, the other thing with this game, they kind of flesh out all the NPCs. So you have them all at hand. Like I said, a lot of them are very simplistic. You're not going to get very much cybered out characters or NPCs. The weapons they use are not overpowered. And I think that's kind of the one thing that's I think how our Talsorian envisioned playing Cyberpunk versus what the majority of players play in Cyberpunk.
Well, it's also like a Euro thing. Like they don't use the big guns in Europe.
True.
Like I think they were trying to set down the difference between like Euro style and American style, because you definitely don't have that in Forlorn Hope.
Yeah.
Like those guys are cybered up animals.
True. Yeah, so eventually you are able to get Jack back on track. And in the aftermath, there's also gives you some kind of clues on possible additional adventures if you want. They also have, and the interesting part of this book, and it starts with this chapter, is at the end of every chapter, there are news stories about the adventure. in the various news outlets in
There you go. You guys are
Europe.
making an impact.
Yes. But of course, you would need to flesh it out even more if the players do something even more crazy. But it's a nice little kind of cap to each of these chapters. The next chapter, which is basically, again, it has been
The
quite
second leg of the tour.
is the second leg of the tour. You are now in Brussels. Is this the one where they went to the arch? No.
No.
Apologies, guys. I originally ran this back in the 90s, and I think I ended it in the third chapter because the group fell apart. So I'm afraid I haven't run them all. I have definitely run the first two. Which, again, Jack is getting.
Yeah, don't confuse people.
Yeah. Yeah, probably should have reread this.
It was a last minute decision to go ahead and review this book
Yeah,
today. We
I
thought
know.
it didn't come through.
Right.
So,
This is the one with the artist, in which
Yeah.
Jack kind of wants a painting. And of course, one caveat is the players cannot kill anybody. So,
which, yeah, telling your players not to kill someone is pretty antithetical to your typical cyberpunk adventure.
yep. So basically, it's just a quick B&E type of adventure. I mean, most of it is background of the NPCs you're going to encounter. The artists, the security group that's around them, the building itself, and again, more descriptions on the events that take place, whether you're successful or not. Usually, it's assumed you are successful.
I actually like this portion of the adventure quite a bit. I like heists. I like thief characters who, your typical avoid the lasers and rappel down into the room and all that kind of good stuff. This gives you that kind of adventure, or it could, like, your players could be savages and just steamroll their way through it. But if you want the subtle route, it's there and encouraged.
Yep. And also the other thing is just, I think, and they kind of gauge towards this, is Jack is a bit of a prick. So you really need to play one, especially when he's dealing with the players, because, again, he's the talent and they're not.
Just imagine the most egotistical, narcissistic asshole you can think of. Basically, well, like he's like a bigger dick than Silverhand. Not counting the whole, terrorist front part, but just personality-wise, he's a douchebag. He is your typical 90s style rock star prima donna asshole. And if you can play that, it runs beautifully. The hardest part will be to keep your players from just kicking his ass left and right.
Yeah. The next chapter, or you arrive in Paris. this is actually a bit lengthy. So, and again, I didn't get too far into this when I ran it, but from what I remember and what I'm kind of quickly glossing through is Jack has a new input. However, she is trouble, and the player will find out exactly how much trouble she is. Again, there are some people as well as locations.
The basic premise is that there's a big party that the players need to provide security for Jack for, and during the party, Jack gets taken. He gets kidnapped, and then you've got to go get him back. It's a pretty standard trope for rocker campaigns or any type of high security type thing. I've had it happen with corporates and all sorts of high profile targets, as I'm sure most GMs at some point have. You go and get the dude out of the trouble that he caused himself. And that's really the basic premise of most of these adventures is douchebag doesn't listen to anybody, gets in trouble, and then you've got to go save him from himself. But it's done in an entertaining fashion, so it doesn't really get old.
Yeah, and each one is a little different.
Yeah.
So I would say overall, throughout them, another rocker would be good. I mean, thinking about the roles involved, there's a couple scenarios in which you do have some possibilities for the netrunner. The majority of these do not. Solos definitely would be useful. Nomads, cops, I think with their authority will have success. Fixers, corporate
Medtechs.
yeah.
You're going to want a medtech.
And
not just for battle damage, but I mean, somebody's got to deal with the drug overdoses.
Yep. So I think overall, from a roles point of view, there's not really too many roles that aren't useful. I think netrunners, and again, the majority, I think 2020 players already kind of ignore netrunner as an option, which is a shame because
cops as written don't really fit well into this scenario either. They can fit, but you're going to have to shoehorn. Like, their authority's not going to come in very handy unless they're a member of Interpol or something like that.
Well, not
because
necessarily.
they're never going to be within jurisdiction.
Well, so if you think about what authority is a combination of, and it's not just, hey, I have backup. It's more or less presenting to a perp or a person that you have some type of authority that you don't. And to be honest, just skimming through the pages, there are a lot of authority checks compared to resource checks or even street deals. So
I guess I don't see how that unless the character is corporate or like a corporate cop or a member of Interpol. I really like a Night City cop coming to Europe and going on this tour isn't going to have really any authority. They're not going to be able to place anybody under arrest. They're not going to be able to call for backup. They're not going to. They're not going to have that. But like I said, there are workarounds. Like I said, like corporate police for whoever's running the tour. I forget which corporation, or Interpol, which has pretty much free range all over Europe.
But again, I think authority is also like an intimidation skill. It's also an interview skill. It's not necessarily that you have. But
it only works because you have the backup of the law behind you.
Yeah, but then
as in 2020 rules, it's written.
Well, But then, if that's true, and you're unemployed, then your authority is zero, right?
Exactly. That's one of the main reasons I changed everything up for Interlock Unlimited. That was one of the main problems I had with the authority role in Cyberpunk 2020 rules as written. Is
But
because if you become unemployed, all that shit is gone. You don't have it anymore.
I don't know if that's true. I've never played authority as like that. That you had to be a cop. You had, to me, you had to have the kind of
I mean, the
attitude
name
and
of the role
knowledge.
is cop, so
It's law is, but I did not think career skills. I don't believe authority is that. So yeah. So the authority, the ability to intimidate or control others through your position as lawman. All right. This ability represents the cop's ability to call on the forces of the law and government to get what he wants. Cops can use authority to question suspects, arrest wrongdoers, defend innocents. Backed by the power of authority, a cop can arrest, detain, confiscate, enter nearly anywhere as long as he has the proper arrest or search warrants to back his play. However, authority is only as good as the guy holding the badge. If the cop appears uncertain of his authority, there's a good chance he'll get nailed by the people he's trying to confront. So that statement tells me that you don't have to necessarily be a cop or have the proper background as long as you present yourself that you know what you're talking about.
well, if you present yourself without that, it just becomes an intimidate check or a persuasion fast talk check. But if you're trying to, but to actually have authority, you have to be in law enforcement.
Right. Well, if you fail the role, then you have to have the credentials to back you up. And if you don't have the stuff, then you role play out what that means, right? Versus somebody who really has the warrant. I mean, I think it's just
I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on this
yeah,
one. Either that or table it for another discussion. Like,
yeah.
we can do a review on the roles as written and whatnot. But yeah. Anyway,
But
um,
all I'm saying is there is quite a bit of authority being used in as skill checks
there is, and I'll concede that there is a bunch of authority there are a bunch of authority roles throughout the book.
versus a netrunner who, I think there's only 2 or 3 data forts in the entire book. There is library search, but you know, I don't see a netrunner just being the guy who just looks things up. Well, he is kind of the guy who looks things up.
Yeah, that's kind of what he does. But yeah, netrunners really, oddly enough, do get shortchanged in this book. I think if one of your characters is playing a netrunner, you'll want to supplement it with stuff he can do. But as far as like deep dives into data fortresses, yeah, there's not a whole lot of that.
Right. The next chapter takes you to Venice, so it's Menace in Venice. Here you are going to try to thwart a sabotage. Someone is looking to blow up Jack's new latest version, and there is some kind of corporate espionage in the background happening. You guys are just victims of it, as it were. And again, this is one of the chapters that has data
Really?
forts in it. Really? You talking to your brother?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. So if you guys are looking for maps, there is excuse me, a data fort map that's somewhat fleshed out that you can use probably in other games. And by the way, there are maps throughout this. Some are different than others. I think I can figure out who designed what just by the graphics. Well, maybe not exactly who it is, but some of the graphics or the maps are a little done differently in a different style than others. But
Yeah, some of them appear to be done on like really early computer graphics programs, and then others are just like hand drawn jobbies.
yep, but they're kind of useful. They represent, the majority of Altosaurian maps. Kind of just high level. Don't really care because again, even though the combat is
It was the
Cyberpunk 2020 combat is very simulator. They really didn't produce it as maps though.
Well, I mean, it was the '90s, and most of the stuff you did was theater of the mind. Battle maps weren't really a thing yet. The maps were more just a visual reference, as opposed to something you would actually try and like work out with miniatures and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, all the maps in the 2020 books are pretty simplistic, but they work for what they're supposed to do.
Yep. The next chapter is you head to Sweden. This is a kidnapping scenario as well, but for a concert promoter that you need to go and save in order to keep the tour on schedule, which is a bit of a different thing.
Yeah, it's nice in that this one it's not Jack's fault, so there's not really a whole lot of reason to hate on him in this particular chapter.
Yep.
And there's not the. This is the chapter for your straight up like. This is where your Cyberpunk players will really just get to let loose.
Yep.
They can go nuts.
In the last chapter or the last adventure, which is one that I really kind of wanted to run back in the day, was so they get to the Czech Republic. However, there is some strife happening in the Czech Republic, and
Well, of course there.
basically it's a get out of town because a revolution is happening, and it's kind of a bit of a harrowing escape to get to the jet to get you out and free so you don't necessarily die. And
Yeah, I very much dug this adventure, and in fact, I've used this chapter, changing the names and dates and faces around as the basis for many other encounters in my various games over the years. It definitely hits that frantic. Time is of the essence. Everybody's running and ragged. The action is quick. It's kind of like a European version of the movie Warriors, where you're just running through one hostile territory after another, trying to get to the plane.
Yep. And then at the end, basically it's kind of a who wants Jack dead, and kind of a little bit of an ending, a prologue to the whole adventure, in which it talks about the different people who might want Jack dead, because it seemed like throughout all of Europe his life was always threatened. And you can actually choose who really wants Jack dead. And there's just little blurbs on how that will end out.
Yeah,
a GM will actually want to look at this before they start running,
Yeah.
so they have some clue as to where to lay proper breadcrumbs, and then look at all the other options to throw out some red herrings and whatnot. Or hell, choose more than one people who really want Jack dead. Because like I said, he's a douchebag throughout, and hell, it may come to the point where it's your characters who just want to kill him.
Yeah, so overall, I think this is a great introductory scenarios. Well, it is multiple scenarios. I think each one you can probably play in an evening. So that's 8 sessions that you can plan out at minimum.
Yeah, you can stretch that out much further, but yeah, if you're just looking for a one shot for the night, this works. It also, I don't do con games, but I always got the feeling like this could be run as a con game across several conventions.
Yeah, I think you could run it through the con, doing each chapter as one event, so a 4-hour session. Now, granted, it might be the same players, it might be different players, but you have an entourage, so it's no problem with having different players come in and playing different characters, so they don't have to necessarily have the full backgrounds. Some of them will, of course, but some of them.
Yeah, I mean, as a book, it's about as thick as Forlorn Hope or even Land of the Free, but the sessions, the individual adventures themselves are much shorter in scope and scale.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just a good way to get familiarized with the rules without, and the setting without being bogged down to the standard Night City. So it's a nice little escape. I really like it. My only real complaint about the book is that the art is very, very inconsistent. You've got fantastic stuff from Hawkabout and Parente. You've got some. The rest of the art, I'm not gonna say it's bad. It's just not up to the same standards.
Well, I think Montanini
is.
He has some good.
I don't know. His stuff goes back and forth. Like some of it's good, and then some of it's just. Ugh.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of internal consistency.
Well, again, he always keeping. Yeah, that's pretty. I think a lot of the art also, and I think Derek kind of hinted at, dealing with the artists was sometimes it was just, hey, give me a piece. Don't care how much time it takes, or you have this amount of time. Versus, I need this by next week. Can you get that done? Yeah, sure. Well, I need 10 pieces by next week. All right.
To be honest, like it's typical of 90s RPGs, where the art just wasn't given the importance that it is today.
Mm. Well, I think
it
also
was very much
the art and the skill level of the artists were big beginning artists, right? When we talk to
yeah.
Oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? Mike Jackson, right? With his discussions, that his art was kind of not too bad, but as soon as he got hooked into the gaming industry and started getting a lot of pieces thrown at him to develop, his skill level just skyrocketed because he had to produce. And I also see that because I also do watch a lot of creators around miniature painting, right?
Yeah.
And you know, there's one YouTuber I follow who interviewed miniature painters, professional miniature painters, like award-winning miniature painters,
Yeah.
and their often advice is, if you want to get better, just do it. Get, you
Yeah.
know,
Practice.
well, it's not only practice, but like set a time of how long it's going to take you to do what 20, 30 miniatures. Say, hey, I'm going to finish these 20 miniatures in a week. Whether they look like crap or not, you put paint on them and put them out the door. Then you move on to your next thing. And by putting that time pressure on you, you start to get better and better, because you're
Yeah. I mean, with
learning
any
quicker.
artistic endeavor, the only way to get better is by doing it.
It's getting, yeah, doing it, and I think failing quickly is another thing that I think will get you
Yeah. I
get you
mean,
better at
failure
things.
teaches you more than success.
And if you can fail quick, you learn quicker. So, but yeah, overall, I think this is a great scenario book for starting. I out of like the other scenarios, Land of the Brave, or sorry, not Land of the Free.
Land of Free.
Land of the Free is definitely a bit more advanced, just because
Yeah.
it has a more complicated plot line, and there's a lot of things you can do with that plot line. And Forlorn Hope, those adventures, like we said, they take the combat level up a notch. So I think this,
I mean, they're mostly geared around combat.
yep.
Even the ones that aren't still have heavy combat themes. I think Forlorn Hope is definitely for more experienced players, people who've come to understand, these are the rules of the game. This is, what the setting is all about. And then Land of the Free is just your epic campaign. It can take a couple of weeks to get across.
Yeah. And speaking of
But yeah,
like just I mean, throughout every single product, and I can't, other than the Chromebooks and Black Hands, maybe Solo's a Fortune, but all the other products have scream sheets or adventure hooks or some type of like framework or an idea, and oftentimes it's just either a half a page or a page of an adventure, which
I mean, both the Black Hands have adventure hooks, and
yeah.
I mean the whole book is set up as a magazine, and then they've got the classified ads in the back, which are their own separate adventure hooks and all that.
Right.
But yeah, the Chromebooks, they're really the only books that don't have that, although there's more than enough in there to provide.
Yeah, and I think up until, Forlorn Hope in this book, you had those scream sheets, you had those little blurbs, and I don't think it necessarily kind of gave a referee enough to go on. The corporate books gave a little more, right? So they were actually, 3 or 4 pages of an adventure.
Well, I mean, here most of the scream sheets are basically wrap-ups.
Yeah.
There are a couple that could lead to others, could act as adventure hooks.
I think how this is written, this is definitely written for new referees who might either question themselves on what to do or what players should roll at certain times, which I think a lot of those scream sheets and everything else in the other works didn't. I mean, it kind of did, but I think this, for me, this book showed me that, oh, you don't necessarily need electronics. You could actually roll this or this or this. I mean, just to give you an example, there's one in which you have to get into a club and you're given a choice. You can roll wardrobe and style, a skill that often people don't use. Authority, credibility, social, or persuade at a skill level, or you can bribe the guard. A couple hundred EB.
Yeah, it definitely gives you different means of approach. Which, you know, as a new GM, that shit's going to be super helpful for you, because if you're coming from other systems, you may not consider these things.
Yeah, because in the main book, the scream sheets are great, but they really don't teach a new referee how to run the game.
Yeah, not at all. Nor does their. Everybody treats Never Fade Away as an adventure, but for me, it's just a short story. I've never understood how people could use that to run their own games without playing the actual NPCs themselves. And it really doesn't tell you how to play the game at all. It just gives you a short story that gives you the feeling of the game, but it doesn't tell you, you know, what checks are being made or how to apply, you know, any of the rules mechanics.
Yeah, I always thought it was a short story, and now that I'm looking at the book, it says the scenario. I'm like,
yeah, and they give stats for all the characters and whatnot,
and floor plans. Yeah. And gives you the NPCs. Yeah, so I guess it is, but I don't know. Anyways, so that's Eurotour. I didn't really want to get into too many specifics. A, because I've forgotten a lot, and B, really don't want this to be too much of a spoiler, especially with all the little details. But definitely check it out. I think it's well worth the money if you're starting out and need some inspiration on how to structure adventures. So definitely a recommend from me.
Yeah, especially like we said, if you're a newer GM getting into it, it's highly recommended. Regardless, it's a fun adventure. It definitely fits if you've ever. I mean, it fits well within most people's comfort zones of what to expect from the genre. And yeah, it's. I mean, really, R. Talsorian only ever did the 3 adventure source books that were just purely there to present the adventure. They let third parties do the vast majority of adventure source books for Cyberpunk 2020.
And we'll talk about those too.
Yeah, each in their own time.
And there is some treasures out there.
There are indeed.
So, I know we're a little bit before 2 hours, but I think it's a good start.
Not too much.
Good start to the new year.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we definitely are working on some guests. I have a guest lined up for either the next episode or the episode after that. It is a returning guest. So I'm really excited to look forward to talking with him again. And I'm not going to
Yeah, more details to come when we have things like properly ironed out.
But nice to
we're
catch
both
up
very excited.
with him. He is a returning guest, as I said, and it's going to be nice to catch up with him. because he's done quite a bit. So, anything else we need to mention, talk about?
Just that we're back. We'll be back on the regular schedule for the foreseeable future. So first and third Wednesdays of the month. Beyond that, we're just happy to. We're just jazzed to be here and hoping you guys keep listening.
Yeah. Other shout out I'd like to do is to all the different shows that are on Cyberpunk Uncensored. So there's a lot of real plays that people should go check out. Different types, mostly, or I think all of them are Cyberpunk Red. So stay tuned to this channel because I think there's at least 1 or 2 live plays every week, if not more. I know Rob, if you're listening, could probably chime in on chat and give you a full list, but come to his Discord at Cyber Nation Uncensored and check them out. A lot of good stuff going on. And you can check me out on my site, which is cybersmily.net. I have a bunch of utilities out there. I haven't created too many new utilities in the past year. I have just recently did some bug fixes after a long hiatus and apologize. So the combat tracker is vastly improved, I hope. I think I squashed a lot of the various bugs that were in there, but I'm sure I can probably find some more. I still have things I'd like to do with the site. It's just getting the time and the effort. I think Phantom Liberty kind of distracted me for the past couple of months, doing all the various playthroughs and endings, and I think I'm on my 4th playthrough of Phantom Liberty because I have to go through all my my characters, all the characters I've developed. And so I'm on a bunch of Discords, so if you do at Cybersmily, there's a good chance you're going to find me. I have my own Discord that you can get to through my site. You have, of course, Cybernation Uncensored, and a crap load of other... Oh! Well, another thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show around Cyberpunk stuff. CMON, cool minis or not, their Cyberpunk 2077 Gangs of Night City is supposedly getting to the US hub and is being distributed. I think Asia has already had theirs distributed, and Europe, I think, is in the next week or two. So those who did the Kickstarter for the board game Night City, which comes with miniatures, definitely check it out. I don't know when it's going to be on retail, but it is coming.
I am Wisdom 0000. Well, just 000. I run Datafortress2020.com, the world's largest and most comprehensive source for Cyberpunk 2020 materials. I am on Facebook under the Cybernation Uncensored, Cyberpunk 2020, and Datafortress 2020 groups. You can also find me on Discord. I lurk on Reddit. As always, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any comments, complaints, suggestions. We love to hear from you. We're always looking for new ideas. We'd like to thank Cybernation Uncensored and Rob Mulligan for hosting us.
Woohoo!
And providing us the opportunity to hang out with you guys.
And we do have a Forlorn Dopes channel on Cybernation Uncensored Discord, so if you want to hit us up, you can also land there.
Yeah, we very much look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. I hope everyone is having a good new year, and be safe and warm, everybody, especially in this freezing ass cold.
Well, for the Americans, I don't know how it's going in south of the equator.
But south of the equator, they're probably doing okay. Summertime.
All right, everyone. We'll catch you in not 2 weeks because this is one of those weird months.
Oh yeah, it is one of those weird months.
We'll catch you at the first Wednesday of next month.
Indeed.
See you later.
Cybernation Uncensored.